Karen, where do you see growth?
Well, clearly, as you said, advertising sort of seen as a bellwether for the economy. And I suppose we have the foresight that we can sort of look in a crystal ball and look at our client spends and what they're looking at predicting to spend for next year. And I have to agree with Alan that I don't think the situation is as dire as what is being made out and being played out in the press. And I think there's three reasons for that. The first of which is next year, everybody talks about next year being a maxi quadrennial year. So it's a year where we're going to have the Euros, it's a year where we're going to have US elections, and it's a year where we're going to have the Olympics. And the Olympics are the first time in the UK. All of that will have an impact in terms of advertising revenue. So I think the last time we had a maxi quadrennial year in 2004, we saw a 4% increase in advertising revenue. In 2008, we saw a 3% increase in advertising revenue. So I do think, and I am confident, that next year we're going to see somewhere between a 2 and 4% increase in advertising revenue because of these events. So we do see a number of different advertising sectors increase their spend during those sort of big sporting events. So you get the drinks advertisers that increase their spend. You also get consumer electronics, of everybody trying to get their TVs in before the event happens. All of that will help contribute and stimulate in terms of advertising revenue and growth. We've also seen particular sectors actually come to the forefront and actually increase spend during a recessionary period. So you have sectors such as online entertainment and leisure. We've seen a massive increase in spend from online entertainment and leisure clients, gambling clients. So people are trying to make money because they're not earning enough. So gambling clients, we've seen a massive increase in spend, 186% increase in spend, 2010 on 2009. And also, we are seeing the supermarket wars that are happening because people do need to eat, and we are seeing the supermarkets fighting for market share. So I do think that the events of next year will help in terms of increasing advertising spend. I do think there's a second point as well, and as many of my peers from the sort of advertising and media world will hopefully agree, that we've seen a massive increase in the amount of data that we have, and that data which allows us to understand where consumers actually interact and how they transact. And I think this gives us a massive opportunity, and all of us in the room a responsibility to help drive growth, which is what Alan was saying. And I think part of that means that we can actually understand more if we do the analytics about how advertising actually pays back and what the return on investment is. And I sort of said this out earlier to Alan, and he sort of smiled, where I think that advertising will move from being a fixed cost to an investment, because it's a way of actually being able to actually grow market share. You can see a return on the money that you spend. So it's a way of us being able to demonstrate and help drive market share. And that does mean that we need to be more creative from a media and advertising point of view in terms of how we interact with different media owners. And I think it's about looking at different ways of trading, which is about sharing risk, and it's about payment by results, which is based on the return on investment that we can give to our clients. The third area, which is why it's good that Mike's sitting next to me as well, is I think increases in technology. And I think the way that we've seen so many technological advancements, I think, can only help stimulate and drive growth from an advertising revenue point of view. And we've all sort of seen how digital and interaction has grown over the last few years, and that's because consumers are behaving in different ways. Consumers are thinking and behaving and transacting in different ways because of technology that's available. So we've seen the increase in smartphones, and I think there's a stat that smartphone purchase will actually outstrip PC purchase for the first time in 2011. We've seen BT announce this week that they're looking at, by the end of 2012, 40% of the UK population having high-speed broadband access. And we've also seen the increase in the number of internet-connected TVs. So I think it's 3.4 million households currently have internet-connected TVs, and 83% of those are actually connecting. So that means that there's a different way that consumers are actually interacting, there's a different way that consumers are transacting, and I think from an advertising revenue point of view, it allows us more opportunities to increase dialogue and to help drive growth. There is something about how consumers behave in a recessionary period, and that is about you do become a bit more promiscuous because you are trying to save money, you are trying to make your weekly household budget go even further. And because of that promiscuous behaviour, we have seen the rise of things like price comparison sites, again, which adds and fuels growth in the advertising industry. But we also see a number of our clients and a number of brands not just looking at acquisition to drive market share, but also to look at churn and to make sure that they hang on to actual customers as well. So that combination of trying to acquire new customers, but also trying to ensure that there is no churn, again, demonstrates and fuels more advertising spend and an increase in growth. So I think it's not as dire as we all think, and I think that we have to keep calm, get creative, and just carry on. Because I really do think we all have a responsibility to help stimulate and drive growth.